If you own a home, if you're trying to buy one, or if you're an investor watching the chaos unfold, you've seen the headlines. One week it's a prediction of falling prices. The next it's a forecast of double-digit growth. One expert says the crash has already started. Another claims the next boom is around the corner. Everyone claims they're right. But here's the shocking truth. They're all wrong. Not because analysts are incompetent, not because banks don't understand economics, and not because the government is hiding some secret data. They're wrong because everyone is trying to explain a housing market that no longer exists. The UK property market has fractured. It has split into dozens of hyper-local ecosystems, each running on different economic fuel, different affordability, and different buyer psychology. A national average in 2025 is like checking the average temperature of the planet and using it to decide what to wear tomorrow. It no longer tells you anything useful. What happens to a £120,000 terrace in Liverpool has nothing in common with a £1.5 million flat in London. You're not living through a boom or a crash.
You're living through a great repricing, the biggest shift in property value in decades, and almost no one has grasped it. For years, people repeated one idea: London always wins. It was the golden rule, the unbreakable law. If property struggled anywhere else, London would still rise. But today, that story has flipped. London and the Southeast aren't just slowing, they're suffocating. Prices are so high and the mortgages required are so massive that even a small drop in interest rates barely makes a difference. A £500,000 home with a near 6% mortgage is crushing for a typical buyer. The payment is not just high, it's life-consuming. And this creates the worst possible market condition. Not a crash, a freeze. Sellers cling to 2021 fantasy prices, the post-lockdown mania era, where anything listed sold instantly. But buyers refuse to overpay in a high-rate world. Result? Transactions collapse. Many areas in the South are seeing 20 to 30% fewer sales than pre-pandemic. Not because homes aren't desirable, but because the gap between what sellers want and what buyers can afford has become a canyon. And the luxury end, even worse. Homes above £2 million are getting hammered, not always in price, but in demand. Wealthy buyers hate uncertainty, and right now, the rumors of future tax changes, political instability, and shifting economic policy are freezing them in place. They wait, they observe, they don't act.
Fear, not fundamentals, is dragging the southern market down. But head north, and the story flips again. Manchester, Leeds, Glasgow, these markets are alive. Why? Affordability. The North didn't rely on cheap credit the way the South did. A £150,000 flat producing a 6 to 7% yield isn't speculation, it's mathematics. Add in the post-pandemic migration, the South to North cash buyers who sold overpriced homes in London, took their equity and bought outright, and demand stays strong. Forecasts show the Northwest, Yorkshire and the Humber and Scotland leading growth for the next 5 years, with projections up to 28%. Meanwhile, London lags far behind. Affordability isn't a trend, it's gravity, and gravity always wins. But there's a force even bigger than interest rates, even bigger than affordability. A force that very few analysts talk about. The remortgage cliff. Over the next few years, 1.6 million homeowners will exit their 2 to 3% fixed deals, and the payment shock is terrifying. A £200,000 mortgage at 2% costs around £848 a month. At 5.5%, it's over £1,200. That's an extra £374 every month, £4,488 a year. And remember, the people on these expiring rates are not wealthy retirees. They're not landlords. They're not cash buyers. They're young families. They're first-time buyers. They're people who stretched themselves to the absolute limit during the pandemic bull market because 2% rates made everything feel affordable.
These households are the most vulnerable in the entire system. Many will be forced sellers, especially in commuter zones, London outskirts, home counties, major transport corridors, where people borrowed the most relative to income. These areas, they are the danger zones. This is where downward pressure becomes real. But interest rates aren't the whole story. There's another factor that's quietly stabilizing the long-term outlook: wages. Through 2023 to 2025, UK wages have been rising faster than house prices in many areas. Slowly, painfully, the house price to earnings ratio is resetting. This is the real path to sustainability, not a return to ultra-cheap money. Those days are gone for good. And then we get to the wildest contradiction in the entire market: the landlord exodus. Nearly half of landlords say they're thinking about leaving the market. Higher interest rates, tougher regulations, surprise tax changes, many are simply done. This creates a strange two-way effect. Rents surge because supply collapses, tenants suffer. Listings rise because landlords sell. First-time buyers benefit. Landlords are unemotional sellers. They don't care about sentimental value. They want out, and for the right price, they'll take a hit. This is where some of the best opportunities for buyers will come from over the next 24 months. Meanwhile, the generational divide has never been wider. Over 61% of homeowners over 65 own outright. No mortgage, no lender, no rate shock. They are totally insulated.
People under 45, however, hold the majority of the mortgage debt, in a world where debt has become brutally expensive. Unless younger buyers get helped from the bank of mum and dad or inheritance, the deposit alone is nearly impossible. The system has quietly transformed. Older wealth is protected. Younger buyers are crushed under expensive debt. But the biggest hidden losses, they're not in the resale market. They're in new builds. Developers inflate prices using incentives, free upgrades, stamp duty paid, 10K cashback. But all of it is baked into the price. Buyers think they're getting a deal, but they're actually paying 10 to 15% more than the real market value. Then comes the valuation, the remortgage, the moment of truth. The lender says the home is worth less than what the buyer paid. Boom, negative equity. Add in the end of the Help to Buy interest-free period, and thousands of owners are realizing their homes never had the value they thought they did. In a market this fragmented, national averages are meaningless. If you want to understand what's really happening, there are 3 indicators that matter far more than anything else. First is days to sell. If homes in your area sit for 60 days or more, demand is cracking. If they go under offer within 2 weeks, your area is resilient. Second is rental yield. The 6% rule is key. Areas with 6% gross yields have solid rental demand, and that forms a natural price floor. The North has it. Most of London does not.
Third, transaction volume. Prices crash only when sellers panic and listings spike. But right now, the problem isn't panic, it's paralysis. Sales are down up to 28%. Once volumes rise again, that will be the first real sign of recovery. So what should you actually do? Let's break it down. If you're a homeowner, lock in your new mortgage rate up to 6 months early. Test your future payment. If it isn't affordable, do not wait. Sell before your fixed deal ends. You'll be in control of the price instead of being forced into a corner later. If you're a first-time buyer, shift your mindset from "where do I want to live" to "where does the math work?" Go where rental yields are strong, wages align with prices, and sellers negotiate. Target landlord exits. They're motivated. If you're an investor, assume rates stay around 5.5% for at least 3 years. If a deal cash flows even under that assumption, it's solid. Focus on discounted, distressed, or landlord exit properties. Because here's the real truth. Everyone is wrong about the national average because the national average no longer exists. There is no UK housing market. There are dozens of micro-markets, each rewriting their own rulebook. This isn't a crash, it's a repricing. A shift from cheap debt to expensive debt. A shift from national trends to hyper-local fundamentals. A shift from blind optimism to mathematical reality. And if you focus on the indicators that actually matter, days to sell, yields, and transaction volumes, you won't just survive this new market.
You'll thrive in it. And if you want more deep dive videos like this, ones that cut through the noise, ignore the headlines, and show you the real data behind the UK housing market, make sure you subscribe. Because the next 12 months are going to be chaotic, and you're going to want the truth, not the clickbait.